So glad to have everybody here. Obviously, we are talking a little bit about customer obsession, customer centricity, customer orientation, whatever you actually call it, that's what we're talking about today. I'm Trivunovic. I'm the SVP of our Consumer Experience Studio here at Zeta, and I have a wonderful panel of people who are going to introduce themselves as we move through the process today. But I think what we're really focused on is how can we bring some level of insight to what is customer obsession and where is it going over the next 3 to 5 years, because it is a large evolution happening. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists, when you answer your first question, to go ahead and introduce yourself. And then we're going to start with the burning question of what actually is customer obsession, because everybody we talk to has a slightly different answer. So I thought it'd be important to kind of orient the conversation there. So Zeid, we'll start with you.
Sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Zeid Khater. I'm an analyst at Forrester. I cover customer data and analytics. The clients that I mostly speak with are either in marketing or in CX or in digital business. So customer obsession for Forrester is an actually very stringently defined framework. We actually have an assessment for companies to take to be able to self-evaluate whether or not they are customer obsessed or where they fit along that spectrum. And customer obsession is defined, at least by Forrester, as putting the customer at the center of the decision-making process, right? It's more than simply caring so much about customers. It's really more so it's part of your operational strategy, your business decision-making. It goes into everything. The KPIs are of utmost importance, and the focus is on customer retention, loyalty, and how to improve that experience. It's very difficult to do, and we were talking about this backstage. We know the word obsession is kind of weird, but it's definitely what we want to call it. Most companies that we have had take the survey don't really fall under customer obsession. They're kind of in the categories below, so customer committed and customer engaged. All that proves is that there has been a move towards customer obsession, and it's kind of a North Star, it's kind of an ideal. Only 3% of those who have taken the assessment actually fall under that category. So.
How about you, Kelley?
Hi guys, I'm Kelley Mahoney, so I'm the Senior Vice President of Customer and Growth Marketing at Ulta Beauty. And customer obsession for us is really about putting the customer at the center of everything we do. I always like to tell the story about how we were founded as a company almost 40 years ago, which was really two founders from the Midwest. They were ASCO drug executives that watched the consumer shopping for beauty and realized there was no place where the consumer could go to shop for beauty the way their makeup bag actually is, which is a combination of low, a combination of high-end, things you would typically find in a department store, things that you would typically find like at the nearest convenience store. And so really putting those two things together was the innovative idea that became Ulta Beauty as we exist today. And so I always like to tell that story because even 40 years later, that's really what we do, is live and breathe the consumer. Being the head of customer and growth marketing means I run our Ulta Beauty Rewards program. So I run our programs that are all about delivering the next best experiences to keep our guests coming back. And in that, we also have insights and analytics. So, I mean, every single thing we do, we always ask ourselves, what is it that we think the consumer wants? We were having a really good conversation about this. And you can ask them, for sure, and that is really important. But you got to go a step beyond watching them, really living with them in the stores, online. That, to me, is what customer obsession is about.
Hi everyone, I'm Alyce, Panico, CEO of Luxe Collective Group. We're a media planning and buying agency specializing in premium and luxury goods. And I took the customer obsession piece in how we apply media planning and buying. So with that, I'm interested in serving them content on behalf of my brands that are really going to engage them, make a loyal consumer. What are they interested in? It's about creating a long-term value for the customer, not just the brand. We always think about who's our long-term value, but what about creating long-term value for the actual customer on the other end? As a brand marketer, I want to serve content. I want to advise my brands to serve content that becomes this beautiful form of cultural wallpaper. They want to see it. They come to expect it. Maybe it's even whimsical in some way. And I'm not just serving them ads.
Hi, I'm Chessia, Kelley McBride, and I'm from Millerknoll, which is a retail furniture group. Design Within Reach might be a brand you want to check out after the conference. And I'm the Director of Customer Acquisition, Retention, and Engagement. And I am customer obsessed, but that word might feel a little unsettling, and maybe it is, but
so accurate for you.
But so accurate.
So accurate.
But what I like to do is take every opportunity, every customer touch point to forge an emotional connection that supersedes choice. And that sounds emotional and fuzzy and warm, but I'm actually a data head, and all we can do is use predictive analytics to create customized, personalized journeys at scale for you, for you, for you, so that I'm offering you what you might want, when you might want it, offering you service when you might need it, so that you do have that choice to have the opportunity for the best customer journey that is possible. And for me, that's customer obsession, and what it ultimately realizes itself in is value. The true unlock, I think, is that when I say every customer touch point, I'm working in marketing, but truly it's where do I build the store that is most convenient? How do I create the store layout? How do I create the marketing experience? What are we doing about shipping? What are we doing about customer care? And so the unlock is knitting together, how do you use predictive analytics, not just in my department, but across an organization?
So what I hear is that it's all about the customer. And listen, like we've been having this conversation for a really long time, right? It's all about the customer and the right place and the right message and the right time and all the things, things that we've been able to do for years. But there's kind of a pivotal shift happening right now, and a lot of it seems to be oriented around customer expectations, right? Like this expectation of a more personalized experience. But I'm curious as you think about this, like what does the evolution of that consumer experience look like in each of your worlds? And at what point in time are we creeping the customer out? So, because we can, and I know, Chessia, you have a very specific opinion about this, but I do want to share, so I'd like to, Kelley, start with you. Kind of what are you seeing as the evolution of this customer expectation, and how are marketers meeting them where they are, and then how do we know at what point in time to kind of hold back?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate to work in a category that's so personal, so I think we can kind of ride that line a little bit, and consumers maybe don't feel like it's as creepy, but I hear you. I totally understand. That's a real thing. So for us, the evolution of the customer experience in marketing and in a very highly emotional category, it's really about anticipating the needs and being present, because the beauty journey is not linear. No journey probably in retail is linear anymore. But I mean, just with the amount of information and content that is out there, social media platforms, influencers, I mean, the consumer is consuming content just always and literally at their fingertips. So for me, in my role, which includes our personalization evolution, it starts with the member, and it starts with making sure that we're getting the member in our program and that we have something very compelling to offer them for being a part of that program. And then it's, what do we do with that data? We're super proud to have nearly 45 million members in our Ulta Beauty Rewards membership, and that continues to grow year over year. Sometimes it's not easy to get people to sign up for your program, but we figured out how to do that with the power of our associates, really explaining the benefits of our program. 96% of all of our sales at the company come from our members. So that means at Ulta Beauty, I mean, we are sitting on a wealth of information about what they're buying, where they're buying, how they're consuming content, what interests them, and it's really putting the combination of all those data elements into a holistic picture of who the consumer is. The evolution is we have to activate against that at scale. You'll hear those words, it's hard, this is a journey. I love your idea of North Star, and I don't know what Ulta Beauty would get if we took that, but I certainly would say our intention is that we're always trying to move in that direction of applying every decision that we make about what we want to put in front of the consumer, whether that's in an email, our mobile app, the site, and even empowering our store associates, because that's where the magic happens. We call it, digitizing the human experience to create very compelling moments. And in beauty, it's about inspiration, it's about discovery, but it's also about like, oh yeah, I have to go and replenish that thing that I almost forgot. Thanks for that helpful reminder. So that's really our evolution, is being present, being there. I don't feel we've ever really hit that creepy factor, at least not yet.
Great.
And that's a perfect segue because my lens is a little bit taking a nod from how the premium and luxury market handle personalization and consumer expectation. And you did a beautiful job where you say it then becomes in the hands of their experience in some ways, and that's so important. So all of the data, all the AI, it can make us very smart about what we think we should serve to the customer, to the end customer. But really what we can't forget is there has to be a human interaction, because everyone could take a nod from what some of the best and the best do, is that there is a human intervention over all of that data that reaches out. Customers, to be loyal, to build a long-term client customer, you need to make them feel special and heard and individual and not getting impersonal chatbot type of messages all the time. And then that point at which you stop, you'll know because you'll have a diminishing return on your communications. But little can replace, dare I say, a phone call sometimes and an actual human voice. But
That might be creepy.
right, it could be creepy. But a personal, if you know the sales associate and you know your favorite just came in, I held it in the back for you. These kind of things go a really long way in terms of loyalty, and that becomes your VVIP versus just a customer. And it's really important to think about that AI can get close to the human element, but we can never, ever replace it.
I agree and I disagree.
Oh.
I agree for my industry, right? My whole job is to deliver my consumer to the sales associate who locks it in. Like, it's high-end furniture. You gotta have that interaction. And then I disagree when it comes to, let's say, airline travel. I don't want to talk to you. I am in a hurry, and I want a push notification that says, bink, you're through the gate, it's all taken care of, and here's your cocktail. Ulta Beauty, I want it replenished. If I miss my facial thing, I'm off track. You know, I want them to take care of that for me. I want that automation. And so I think that there's a hybrid where you can use all of this data that we're swimming in, which in these conferences, right? Data, we can do it. AI, it's great. It's actually really hard. It's manual. You're building models, you're creating forecasts, and you're trying to do it across several departments and large corporations. It's a lot of work. But what you can do is by chipping away at those things, you create these, using the patterns, using the clustering, using these models, you can actually create systems wherein the phone says you're checked in already and you're ready to go. You don't need to rebook your flight today, you know? And so you are feeling serviced and convenient and emotionally connected because they understood your need and met you before you knew you needed it.
Yeah. Zeid, how about you?
Oh, I get to say, great.
I was just going to skip you.
No, that's fine. Well, you could, because I agree with all the answers, including Chessia's.
Of course you do.
Tangent. Yeah, of course. And so, I think for consumer expectations, one thing that we're seeing that has changed, I think, over the last few years was, and you all know as consumers, immediate responses have become an expectation. Genuineness, we talked about influencers, and we talked about, I don't want to get a chatbot, right? There's a reason why there's been a proliferation of using social media influencers is because it feels like a person is telling me about a product instead of a brand is telling me about a product, right? These have become expectations. And so, and also to Chessia's point about the creepiness, there's an irony actually in analytics being kind of seen as, I think, unfairly judged as being creepy. If you remember, the world's introduction to predictive analytics was through the Target example, the pregnancy prediction. And everyone freaked out, and the news went crazy.
Yeah.
But the truth is, predictive analytics natively obscures your personal information. It's looking at data in aggregate, meaning it doesn't know that Zeid did X, Y, Z. It just knows that Zeid and 1,000 other people like Zeid and tens and hundreds of thousands of people like Zeid have a propensity to do the following thing or to want the following product. Now, is that true for every form of personalization or hyper-personalization? No. But there is a value exchange, which I think is what Chessia was alluding to, right, with the airline example. And I said this backstage when we were talking. I don't want to be on social media. My life is not that interesting, but I do want everyone to have my location services information to help me park in Chicago because it's very difficult, right? So there's certain things where you're willing to say yes and no to. And I think consumers being allowed to make that choice for themselves is what's key here. And I think that was coming across a lot in what Kelley was sharing. if you are asking the customer directly, what do you want, is the safest way to avoid the creepiness and to get actually high quality data directly from the source instead of, begging third-party brokers to please make your match rates match what my customer list looks like. So.
But the one thing we did talk about a little bit was when you ask the customer what they want versus what the behavior tells them that they want, it's sometimes different, right? Because my direct response to something is the aspirational me, right? Like, yes, I want to go to Bali for my next vacation. Am I gonna? Probably not. And so, unless someone wants to send me. But you know what I'm saying? So you have, there's this balance that you have to be able to find. Yes, you want to be able to ask the customer. The value exchange, I think, is one of the most important things, though. And I think what we don't look at all the time is that the value exchange is different based on when they're engaging with you in the life cycle, right? It's not like a consistent value exchange always. And so I think that as we look at, where this is going from an innovation perspective, right? It is looking predictive. It does take in, zero-party responses, but I think your behavior is way more telling than what I respond to, right?
Are you asking me to respond?
No.
Okay, good.
It was rhetorical.
Okay. I'll be quiet.
Just not.
Okay.
All right, so as we think about, innovation in this light, right? So when a lot of what we're talking about in being customer obsessed is really about personalization, right? How do we create these unique and personalized experiences, with clients, with customers? Alyce, I'll start with you. Where, over the next 3 to 5 years, if we're thinking, a little further out, where do you see personalization evolving and kind of orienting around this customer experience?
I think, again, from my hat, it's what's the end result, what's the campaign that goes out. All this internal brand work is done, and it's our job to go ahead and make sure that you actually see it. So one, don't waste their time. That's first and foremost. In that experience, it should be easy. So there's a lot of algorithms that are helping us program some of this media. We have to make sure that they look how we want them to, because if we listen only to that predictive, we won't have the end result. So I think first and foremost, make it shopping, retail. It's supposed to be a leisure, lean back experience. Please make it easy for them. And then in terms of moving back to the idea of that, we'll find them. We'll start to get the predictive technology to tell us where our prospects are. So once we have them, I'll go back again to saying there has to be something special in that communication. So be part of that landscape. Give them content that they're asking for. Make it so they're looking forward to seeing those messages. Don't just serve those ads. And really, think about testing. See what they're responding to. We test a ton of creative in these campaigns. That's what's going to tell you what's resonating or not. And then just be mindful that overall, not to lose sight of the fact that we are drowning in data and we're not quite sure always what to do with it or how to categorize it. But look at them in their silos, see what you can put together in terms of conclusions, but don't lose that human interaction, because that level of service, whether it's even just making it easier so you're not wasting their time and you can just get your drink when you sit on the plane, or it's I've put aside your favorite shade, I know it's rare. It's that piece, and just not to forget about the relationship that the end result has to have with that customer. And that can be done over digital communications, but there just has to be a human personalization attached to it.
Yep. Drones, Chessia? Jones?
Well, for me, I'm so excited for the next 3 to 5 years, because the amount of predictive models that I'm going to have is a lot, and that's very exciting. But what I think it is it's going to take the creativity to unlock it, and that's what I'm excited about. So it's going to tell me in the model everything that I need to know, but then I get to apply creative ideas to service that customer. And so really what it is a gift. Now I just get to do the creative, fun ideas because the data is helping me out at scale. And that's really fun. And then we talk about testing, and then we understand what people really enjoy, and then we figure out experiences that connect with people, and that's the true joy of marketing, right? That's fun, because the data is solving for itself in a little bit if I set it up correctly. So I'm very excited for that element.
I love it. What about you, Zeid?
All right. this may be a weird way to start this, but were any of you here last year? Did any of you remember Stephanie Liu? Stephanie Liu was here last year, right, for Forrester? You don't remember? So are you familiar with Forrester's concept of a digital double? Okay. We're not practitioners, so we can get kind of crazy and wonky with where we think the future is going to go. So just, I don't know, humor me a bit. So, and I'm going to say generative AI, so you can go ahead and roll your eyes already.
Bingo!
Yeah, there you go. Ding, yeah. But essentially, so it can't be ignored. The truth is, agent AI or agentic AI is kind of now all the rage. And if any of you were at Salesforce last week, you probably heard more about it than you ever wanted to. But the truth is that, there is something to be said for the future of marketing as it relates to generative AI or AI in general. So the one part that I think Chessia will like is I do think that there's going to be a push more towards traditional AI, because marketers are now realizing this is not something to be scared of. And ironically, there have been a lot of press releases from different MarTechs and different analytics providers that are kind of rehashing old press releases for traditional AI solutions, because they're realizing now the buyer market includes people who traditionally it didn't include, business end users essentially, right? But the concept of a digital double, essentially what we're predicting might happen, is that you will no longer have to interact with the algorithms on your own. You'll feed inputs into your own agent, and that agent is off to the races to be able to filter out unwanted communications, right? It's taking signal from your direct inputs. I am a person, for example, this is hypothetical, I'm not one of these people, who wants to hydrate more. I get enough water, right? So you introduce this concept to your digital double. You also have conversations with it where it's retaining memory about who you are and what you want. And then as you're hit with a barrage of ads, it's able to sift through what is relevant and what is not. So I'll give you an example where this problem might get solved. Most consumers now are smart enough to know that there is technology powering all of the personalization that's happening behind the scenes. So when you come back from like a trip, like let's say I leave New York City, go back to Chicago, and I get an advertisement that says, hey, go to New York for $150, you go, that's dumb, I was just there, right? So it's not there's clearly technological silos between fulfillment and between search and between navigation, and they're not talking to each other, right? So having the agent there could help dispel some of that friction. But again, completely aspirational, totally just Minority Report-y, but we do think that there's enough tech that could eventually lead us there. You said 3 to 5 years, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for Ulta Beauty, I go back to that things are just going to get faster. Things are just going to get more seamless in this process. So a real quick, it is hard. I've now heard that I said it and you said it. It is, Chessia. It's really, really hard. So when you go to these conferences and you hear these words, it's like, oh my gosh, am I doing enough? What I've realized as I look back 3 years ago is it's the same foundational principles of understanding who, knowing what's going to resonate, and then putting it into the right channel. It's just faster.
Yeah.
And you're able to pump out more volume because you're using these tools. So step into it that way. 3 to 5 years from now, it's just going to be a faster version of what you're doing today. Partner with the right people that can help you make the right decisions around the technology and the data platforms that you need. And don't get too distracted on trying to get there faster than 3 to 5 years, because things are going to change.
All right, so as we kind of close this out, I think our blessing and our curse as digital marketers is our ability to measure just about everything. So as you think about kind of measuring success, KPIs, how do we measure the value of customer obsession? Chessia.
I mean, the cute answer that we all know is LTV, right? Lifetime value. If I am offering something of value to you, you will be valuable to me. That's the cute answer. The real answer is that I have a scorecard of 35 metrics that I check every week to make sure I understand why customer lifetime value is shifting. Is it because, and what I can know about how I'm predicting how lifetime value is going to change, because I'm not necessarily sad if it comes down, if my acquisition numbers are going through the roof. I'm really not necessarily sad. But if it's going up and retention is going really well, I know I'm going to save a lot of dollars on my acquisition, so this is fun. What am I going to do with those dollars? So there are many ways to measure. There's that cute answer, and then there's the real answer, which is 2024 is nuts. Yeah. Check your metrics frequently, adjust your strategy constantly. What you were doing last month might not be working anymore. And if you don't check all of those metrics and all of those numbers, you're probably off track, and Ulta beat you to it. Because Ulta is actually like my saint brand. It's a case study in an education on like how to do it right. So that's how I do it. It's just a lot of pulse checks. How is my customer behavior changing, and what can I do to then course correct?
So let's work our way back. Alyce?
Sure. I'll bring up the testing again, because once the campaigns are out, we have to watch them very frequently. And as I mentioned, the rules of all of the platforms that we're running on change, sometimes on a weekly basis, if not more often. And audiences we could once reach, we now no longer can. So we need smarter systems to do that. Thank you, Zeta Global. And then the other piece is thinking about what does that look like now we're on the other side of the campaign, or we're measuring it on a daily or weekly cadence. We've looked at it, we see all of our numbers. Okay, we've got our ROAS. That's not the end of the story. You've got to look at engagement, you've got to look at the time spent, you've got to look at some of the factors that the teams in procurement and accounting aren't as interested in, but as marketers we have to be, because someone's spending more time. The completions, the engagement piece, don't rule them out. Sometimes we simmer a little bit to make a purchase decision, especially a big purchase decision. So I try to advise my client partners, the ROAS is only one side of the story. And as you mentioned, there's so many other factors happening at the same time. So with that said, think about the other pieces that maybe tell a longer tail story and don't just focus only on the ROAS.
Can I just say I agree so hard with that? My team is not allowed to talk about ROAS because it's about the lifetime.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to pay a higher price for an ad for the right customer than the wrong one. I'm actively suppressing out low-value customers all the time.
I may quote you in that.
Anyway, but go ahead.
Yes, and yes, and yes. So maybe I'll just offer something additive, which is the highest kind of metric that we're looking at outside of your brand health metric is what we call brand love. And we've worked on this proprietary. There's probably lots of ways you can do brand love, but we've been very specific to our business and our consumers, and I said it was an emotional category, so relevance and truly, are we connecting with you? Do you feel close to us? Like, do we feel like a friend? Are some of the questions that we actually ask in order to kind of understand this index, and we measure that on a monthly basis, and we look at that pretty regularly to help us understand the shifts we need to take. I agree with you. You do need to take different shifts, especially now more than ever, because the consumer's operating at the pace of culture, and culture's moving really, really fast.
Yeah. Zeid, bring us home.
All right. Okay. Well, it's tough because they've answered the question already. But I will say, what I guess what I've heard from everyone is a diversity of metrics is really the way to go, and being hyper focused on one. Kind of creates an isolation measurement, which is true. I mean, if you think about something like CSAT, it's usually a measurement of one singular interaction, and you're assigning this customer an entire score for just one interaction. So at Forrester, the way that we kind of put a framework around this is we'd say you want to have a mix of short, medium, and long KPIs or metrics. So short would be to measure at the touch point level, and then medium would be to measure at the journey level, and long or high would be to measure at the lifetime level, at the relationship level, right? And LTV is, as was mentioned before, super adorable. So that's the one thing. And then the final thing I'll say, it is very adorable. And the final thing I'll say is what I found to also be particularly useful, and I'm hearing it from everyone to my left, is to break outside of traditional measurements. Just because your discipline is CX doesn't mean you survey everyone, right? There's still benefit in analytics and predictive analytics, right? Just because you're in marketing doesn't mean that the unstructured data piece does not matter. And hopefully in the future there'll be more ways to introduce unstructured data, text data, reviews of psychographical elements that come directly from your customer into an environment where you have hard structured data as well.
Yep. Well, great. I want to thank all of you for sharing your experience and your time with us today. Thanks for everyone for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the conference.